Well, I'm going to back it up just a little bit. Mama and I went down to Fort Worth for the Cowtown picking party. The little sign, it says walking, but they're on their phone texting.
For 26 years, Reba McEntire and Narvel Blackstock were more than husband and wife. They were partners in business, family, and nearly every part of their lives. Then in 2015, their marriage ended, and Reba later admitted that the divorce was never what she wanted. But the story became even more complicated when Narvel moved on with another woman. So what did Reba really think about his new relationship? And why did her response reveal something far deeper than jealousy or anger? For Reba McEntire, the end of her marriage did not begin with a dramatic public fight. It began with something much harder to understand. The realization that a relationship she believed would last for life was coming to an end. Reba met Narvel Blackstock in the early 1980s, when he was working as her steel guitar player. Over time, their professional relationship became something much deeper. They married in 1989, and Narvel eventually became Reba's manager. Together, they built not only a family, but also a powerful career partnership. Their lives became closely connected. Narvel helped guide Reba's career as she grew from a rising country singer into one of the biggest stars in American entertainment. Reba, meanwhile, became a major figure in music, television, and film. Behind the scenes, the two seemed to have created a life that was almost impossible to separate. They also raised a family together. Reba became stepmother to Narvel's children from his previous marriage, and the couple had one son, Shelby, born in 1990. For years, there was little reason for fans to imagine that this marriage could suddenly disappear. But there was one detail that made the eventual breakup especially painful. Reba and Narvel were not simply married. They were business partners. Their professional lives were deeply connected, meaning a divorce would affect far more than their home life. It could change the way Reba worked, who managed her career, and how she handled the future. Then, in August 2015, the couple announced that they were divorcing after 26 years of marriage. The announcement shocked many people, and Reba later made it clear that she did not want a marriage to end. That admission changed the way many fans viewed the breakup. This was not simply two celebrities deciding to go separate ways. For Reba, it was a loss she had not chosen. Yet the divorce was only the beginning, because after decades of building a life together, Reba now had to watch that life continue without her former husband beside her. And what happened next would make the emotional fallout even more complicated. The hardest part of Reba McEntire's divorce may not have been losing her husband. It was losing the future she thought they were still going to have. When Reba and Narvel Blackstock announced their separation in 2015, the public statement was short and respectful. But behind those careful words was a much more painful reality. Reba later spoke openly about how difficult the breakup had been for her. She explained that the divorce was not her idea. She wanted to stay married and try to understand how their relationship had reached that point. But sometimes, one person can want to save a marriage while the other person has already decided to leave. That kind of ending can be especially painful because there is no simple villain and no easy solution. Reba suddenly had to rebuild parts of her life that had been connected to Narvel for decades. Their marriage had lasted 26 years. Their son, Shelby, was grown, but the family connection remained. Their professional history was also impossible to erase overnight. And then there was the emotional side. Reba had spent much of her adult life with Narvel. They had celebrated career victories together, faced difficult moments together, and built a life that had become familiar. Now she had to learn how to live without that partnership. In interviews after the divorce, Reba did not pretend that everything was fine. She acknowledged that she went through periods of sadness and struggled with the changes. But she also leaned on her faith, friends, family, and work. There was another important shift. Reba began looking at her future as something she could control herself. Instead of allowing the divorce to define her, she continued working. She appeared on television, performed music, spent time with family, and slowly created a new routine. But moving forward does not mean the past suddenly stops hurting. And Reba soon faced another emotional test. Narvel Blackstock began a new chapter of his own life. He became romantically involved with Laura Putty Stroud, a woman Reba reportedly knew before the relationship became public. That detail made the situation far more uncomfortable. For Reba, this was no longer just about accepting that her former husband had moved on. It raised a much more personal question. How do you react when someone from your past begins a relationship with someone who is already part of your wider circle? Rumors quickly began filling in the blanks, but the truth was more complicated than the headline suggested. And Reba's own words about the situation would reveal that she chose a very different response from the one many people might have expected. For Reba McEntire, the divorce was already painful enough, but seeing her former husband begin a new relationship brought another layer of emotion into the story. After Reba and Narvel Blackstock officially ended their marriage in 2015, Narvel eventually began dating Laura Putty Stroud. Stroud was not a complete stranger to Reba. Reports described her as a longtime friend of the family, which made the situation feel much closer to home. That detail quickly attracted attention. Fans naturally wondered how Reba could possibly feel comfortable with the relationship. After all, she had spent more than 2 decades married to Narvel. This was not someone she had dated for a few months and then forgotten. He had been her husband, manager, business partner, and the father of her only child. And now, he was building a new relationship. But this is where the public story needs some caution. There have been plenty of rumors surrounding Narvel and Laura, including claims about when their relationship began. However, not every claim repeated online has been confirmed by Reba, Narvel, or reliable public records. The safest facts are much simpler. Reba and Narvel divorced in 2015 after 26 years of marriage. Narvel later entered a relationship with Laura Putty Stroud. Reba, meanwhile, continued building her own life. And instead of turning the situation into a public battle, Reba appeared to take a more measured approach. That does not mean the divorce was painless. In fact, Reba has spoken about how difficult it was to go through a divorce she did not want. She has also talked about the importance of accepting circumstances she could not control. That distinction matters. There's a huge difference between saying, "This did not hurt me," and saying, "This hurt me, but I refuse to let it destroy me." Reba seemed to choose the second path. She continued working, spending time with family, and focusing on her own future. Eventually, she also found love again, beginning a relationship with actor Rex Lynn years after her divorce from Narvel. That new relationship offered an important contrast. Reba was no longer simply the woman whose marriage had ended. She was becoming someone with an entirely different chapter ahead of her. But there was still one question hanging over the story. What did Reba actually think about Narvel's new relationship? Did she feel betrayed? Was she angry? Or had she reached a place where she could genuinely wish her former husband well? The answer is more surprising than the dramatic rumors suggest. Because Reba's response was not built around revenge. It was built around letting go. And the person Narvel chose to be what made that decision even more complicated. There was one detail about Narvel Blackstock's new relationship that made the story especially uncomfortable for fans. Laura Putty Stroud was not someone who appeared out of nowhere. She was part of the wider circle around Reba and Narvel, and reports have described her as a longtime friend of the family. That connection made people look at the situation differently. Suddenly, the story was no longer simply about an ex-husband finding love again. It involved people who had already shared part of Reba's world. But this is also where rumors can easily become confused with facts. Over the years, stories about Narvel and Laura's relationship have circulated online, with different accounts making different claims about when they became close. Unless Reba, Narvel, or another reliable source confirms a specific detail, it should not be treated as established fact. What we do know is that Narvel and Reba's marriage ended in 2015, and Narvel later became involved with Laura. For Reba, that could not have been an easy thing to process. Imagine spending 26 years with someone, building a family and career together, and then watching that person create a new life. Even if you understand that a divorce means both people are free to move forward, emotions do not always follow logic. There can be memories, there can be unanswered questions, and there can be moments when the past suddenly feels much closer than you expected. Yet Reba did something that made her response stand out. She did not appear to make Laura the enemy. Instead, Reba focused on the things she could control. She continued to work. She stayed connected to her family. And she gradually allowed herself to imagine a future that did not depend on what Narvel was doing. That was important because Reba had already lost something bigger than a marriage. She had lost a version of her life that she had expected to continue. And rebuilding after that kind of loss requires more than simply moving into another relationship. It requires finding your own identity again. Reba eventually did exactly that. Her career remained strong. She returned to television projects, continued performing, and became more open about the lessons she had learned from difficult periods in her life. Then came another major change. Reba found love again with Rex Lynn, and this relationship looked very different from the one she had shared with Narvel. It was not about rebuilding the past. It was about creating something new. And that may be the most important part of Reba's story. Because while fans were still looking backward at her ex-husband's relationship, Reba was already looking somewhere else. But before she could fully embrace that new chapter, she had to make peace with the one that ended. And that is where Reba's real response to Narvel's new relationship becomes much clearer. The most revealing part of the story is not what Reba McEntire could have said about Narvel Blackstock's new relationship. It is what she chose not to say. After a marriage lasting 26 years, it would have been easy for anger to become part of the public story. Reba had already admitted that she did not want a divorce. She had gone through the painful process of accepting a decision she had not made herself. But instead of turning the situation into a public feud, Reba repeatedly emphasized acceptance. That did not mean she was happy about the divorce. It meant she understood that she could not control another person's choices. Reba has spoken about how difficult it was to let go of the marriage, but she also talked about moving forward and trusting that life could still hold something good for her. That attitude became especially important when Narvel started a new relationship. Rather than spending her energy competing with the woman in his life, Reba began focusing on her own life. She kept working. She stayed close to her family. She continued performing for audiences around the world. And eventually, she opened her heart again. Her relationship with Rex Lynn became public in 2020, after the two reconnected following years of knowing each other. What began as a friendship developed into something more. The timing was significant. Reba was no longer trying to repair the life she had with Narvel. She was building something completely different. And that difference reveals something important about her emotional journey. Moving on does not always happen when you stop caring about the past. Sometimes it happens when you stop allowing the past to decide what happens next. Reba had every reason to remain stuck in the pain of her divorce. Instead, she continued to reinvent herself. Her career entered new stages. She appeared in television projects, continued making music, and took on new opportunities. She also became more open about enjoying life rather than trying to prove anything to anyone. Meanwhile, Narvel continued his own life. The two would always share history, especially because of their son Shelby. But their marriage no longer needed to define either person. That may be why Reba's reaction to Narvel's new relationship feels so different from the dramatic version people might expect. There was no need for a public showdown, no need to compete, no need to rewrite the past. The real victory was much quieter. Reba learned how to build a future that belonged to her. But there was still one final question. After everything that happened, could Reba truly look back at her marriage without bitterness? Her answer, through the life she built afterward, suggests something powerful. She did not need to erase the past. She simply stopped living inside it. And the next chapter of her life would prove just how completely she had changed. Reba McEntire could have spent years being known mainly for the marriage that ended. Instead, she became known for what she did after it. That may be the most important part of the entire story. After divorcing Narvel Blackstock in 2015, Reba faced a strange new reality. She had to separate parts of her personal life from a man who had also been deeply connected to her professional world. But slowly, she began creating a life that was not built around what she had lost. Her career continued moving forward. She remained active in country music, while also returning to television and other entertainment projects. She took on new roles, new performances, and new opportunities. Then came Rex Lynn. Reba and Lynn had known each other for years, But their relationship became romantic in 2020. During a period when many people were feeling isolated and uncertain, the two found a connection that grew from friendship. And this time, Reba was entering a relationship with a very different perspective. She was older. She had experienced a major divorce. She knew what it meant to lose a relationship she thought would last forever. That experience seemed to change the way she viewed love. Instead of trying to recreate her marriage with Narvel, she could appreciate something new for what it was. Rex became an important part of her life, and Reba has spoken warmly about their relationship in interviews. She has described him as supportive and someone who makes her happy. That matters because it shows that the divorce did not close Reba's heart. It changed her. She learned that life could take a direction you never planned, and that you could still find happiness afterward. There was also another reason Reba had to keep moving forward. Her family remained connected to Narvel. Their son, Shelby, is an important part of both their lives, meaning Reba could never completely erase her former husband from her world. But she did not have to. She could accept that Narvel was part of her history, without allowing that history to control her future. And perhaps that is why Reba's story feels so relatable. A painful breakup does not always end with someone getting revenge or exposing a shocking secret. Sometimes the ending is much quieter. You wake up one morning and realize you are no longer waiting for the past to change. You stop asking why someone left. You stop wondering what might have happened. And you start asking a completely different question. What can I build now? Reba answered that question through her work, her family, her friendships, and eventually a new love. Her former husband's new relationship was no longer the center of her story. Reba was. But there is still one final piece to understand. Because the biggest lesson from this entire chapter is not really about Narvel, Laura, or even the divorce. It is about what Reba discovered about herself after losing the future she thought she wanted. And that lesson may explain why she was eventually able to move forward without bitterness. In the end, Reba McEntire's story is not really about her ex-husband's new relationship. It is about what happened when the life she had carefully built suddenly changed. For 26 years, Reba and Narvel Blackstock shared a marriage, a family, and a professional partnership. When that marriage ended in 2015, Reba did not pretend it was easy. She had wanted the relationship to continue, and accepting the divorce took time. Then Narvel moved forward with his own life. That could have kept Reba trapped in the past. Instead, she slowly learned a difficult truth. Sometimes closure does not come from getting the explanation you wanted. Sometimes closure comes from accepting that you may never get the ending you imagined. There is also an important distinction between facts and the rumors that have surrounded this story. Reba has publicly acknowledged the pain of her divorce, but many dramatic claims about exactly what happened between Narvel and Laura Putty Stroud have circulated without solid confirmation. So there is no reason to turn speculation into fact. What is clear is that Reba eventually chose not to make the situation a public war. She continued living. She continued working. And she eventually found love again with Rex Lynn. That new relationship became one of the clearest signs that Reba had entered a different stage of her life. She was no longer defined by the marriage that ended. She was defining herself by what came next. And perhaps that is the real reason her story continues to connect with so many people. Because heartbreak does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like go to work when you would rather stay home. Sometimes it means smiling in public while privately trying to understand how your life changed. And sometimes healing simply means accepting that another person has chosen a different path. Reba did not erase her history with Narvel. She could not, and she did not need to. They will always share memories, family connections, and a long chapter of their lives. But she also did not allow that history to stop her from creating another chapter. That may be the biggest revelation of all. The woman who once thought her marriage would last forever eventually discovered that losing one future did not mean losing her entire future. She found new love. She kept building her career. She remained close to the people who mattered most. And most importantly, she learned to move forward without needing to destroy what came before. So when people ask what Reba really thought about her ex-husband's new relationship, the answer may be less dramatic than the rumors suggest. She had already learned something more powerful than anger. She had learned to let go. And maybe that is the part of Reba's story worth remembering. Sometimes the strongest response to a painful ending is not revenge. It is building a life so full that the ending no longer controls you. After everything she went through, Reba did exactly that. Do you think Reba handled her divorce and her ex-husband's new relationship the right way? Or do you think she should have spoken more openly about what happened? Let me know in the comments below.